Welcome to Ready, Set, RC, and today we have the FS Racing Model GT. This is a 1/7 scale on-road car. And there are two other OEM companies that are actually selling this model. So depending on where you are in the world and where you're able to find this, you'll either find this as this FS Racing or as FTX, the SupaForza GT. And the other one you'll find it as the Reely Deathwatcher XL6S. All of them have the same body and they just come with a different color. From FS Racing, you'll get this blue and a gray. I believe from FTX, you're gonna get a red and a blue. And from Reely, you're gonna get like a funky green color and a gray. And basically that's all the colors that you're gonna get from the three different companies. But underneath, the chassis is going to be the same across the line. They're all gonna have the same chassis build and just the body. So it all depends on where you're able to get it. I got this from AliExpress. I won't leave the link in the description because the links don't seem to really last from AliExpress. I will say that I got this from Furious RC, which is the company that it was ordered through under AliExpress. So if that's worth anything, feel free, look for that. But yeah, the pricing on this is pretty good. I'll leave that also in the description below. It's a great deal for what you get, guys. Shipping from AliExpress was free, and the pricing can vary depending on which store you actually purchase this from on AliExpress. I've seen it as low as $536, and I've seen it as high as $700 US. So the prices vary all over the place. And as I said, I can't leave a link because the link is probably not going to be good for everybody that tries to bring it up. So as I mentioned, this is a 1/7 scale on-road car. The overall length is 710 millimeters. The wheelbase is 410 millimeters. The overall width is 350 millimeters. And the overall height is 200 millimeters. And let's quickly go over what you get in the box. You get a set of soft springs front and rear for the car, so you can change out the springs on here. They have a blue marking on them for the soft springs. You get a set of hard springs for the car, and these have a yellow marking on the springs for the hard spring. You get a 14-tooth pinion. This looks like it's probably an LED holder for the rear. Right in the back of the car, there is an area where you can put another LED in the rear of the car, and this is really just the LED holder to do that. They provide you with some XT90 connectors, just in case you don't have XT90s on your batteries, and you can solder them on. They provide you with some FSR stickers. I won't consider this the owner's manual because there's not really anything instructional in here. There are some 3D blowouts of the car throughout this manual, and that's pretty much what it is, outside of a listing of parts towards the end. So this is, I won't consider this an owner's manual as much as it is a breakdown of the car and a parts ordering sheet that if you're looking for parts of what to order, they got that in there. I did see in the rear, it looks like there's some type of revision with the controller, the receiver, looks like some of the body panels that are on there too. That seems to be some other stuff that they revised in this manual. But outside of that, that's pretty much all that you get in reference to the manual for the car. And then you get a owner's manual for the controller. There is a section in English. You just have to turn the page. There is a section in English. It speaks on the controls for the transmitter and some of the other functions of the transmitter in there. And we'll go over the transmitter right now. So this is the controller you get for the car. It is a 4-channel controller. So you get your reverse switches for your steering and your throttle. You also get a gyro in this car, and how you control the gyro is through the steering dual rate right here. There is also a throttle dual rate, steering trim, and throttle trim over here with a bind button all the way on the side. It is capable of driving with one hand. Feels really good in the hands, guys. Nice foam wheel. You do have the third channel down here, and then this channel controls the brake. So there is a mechanical brake in the car, or an e-brake, and this is how you control that servo for it. There are lights on the car, and we'll talk about that as we start to go more into the car, but I just wanted to show you guys that. It takes 4 AA's down below, and there is a battery meter. I'll put this on. There's a battery meter on the control as well, which is kind of cool. Well, let's get into the car. And it's a really nice shell. Body clips are tethered on the shell. I mean, this thing is made up nicely. The stickers are put on perfect. You guys can see how there is wire management for the LEDs. These are LED strips in the front and also in the rear. The lenses are painted rear as well, so that's why you're seeing the red paint here. And that's the LED lenses in the rear. These are additional body moldings for the spoiler, the rear mirrors, and the LED housings. So it just feels good, guys. This body really does feel good. They have Velcro down on the sides, and these are the ends for the LED lights. So you have the rear and also for the front. This is my first FS Racing RC, and I gotta say, guys, I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing here. For the car, we got quite a bit going on here, and I'm gonna touch on the wheels and tires first. So we do have more narrow wheels up in the front, wider wheels in the rear. On these wheels, there are 17mm hex, and a 17mm nut is attached. For the front, we have a nice foam bumper going on in the front, a nice thick piece of plastic for the splitter. For the body mounts, it looks like it's going to be fixed. I don't see several different adjustment heights for it. It is a fixed mount. CNC machined shock tower. We have nice upper shock protectors up on here. We have oil-filled, aluminum-bodied, screw-down adjustable shocks, and there is an aluminum shock cap too. We have 4 adjustments on the shock tower and 2 adjustments down below. CVD type drive shafts in the front, as with a pillow ball suspension. There is adjustable camber and toe in the front of the car. Dog bone drive shafts in the rear. The car has a front, center, and rear differential with spiral tooth diff gears. A nice thick front to rear chassis brace on this, and then there is composite chassis braces coming off of the front and the rear of the car. There is a dog bone center drive shaft going to the center differential. Then that goes to the e-brake system over here in the center. And then there's another dog bone drive shaft going off to the rear. There is another CNC machined rear shock tower, and the shocks are of the same compound in the rear. Composite diffuser coming off the rear of the car. Looks like there are adjustments in the rear for the body mount. There are adjustments for camber in the rear, and the suspension arms are all composite. As for the adjustments to the shocks in the rear, there are 5 adjustments to the upper shock mount and 2 adjustments to the lower shock mounts for the rear. For the electronics, we're looking at a 150 amp brushless 3S to 6S capable ESC, and it has 2 XT90 connectors coming off of it. We're looking at a 4274 2000 kV motor that's capable with a nice fan coming off the side. I like how they did that too on the car. 2 pretty large sizable battery trays, and those batteries will be affixed with Velcro strap. Looking at an 18 kilogram servo for the steering and a 4 kilogram servo for the e-brake. I tested out the servo for the steering. I'm not that much of a fan for it. I think it's a little slow, a little underwhelming. I don't know if that was the gyro, but it would not go back to center when I had it on the floor and just moving the wheels around. That could be the gyro, though. I'll see how it performs in real world settings. But for me, I tend to like a little bit more of a faster servo on my on-road cars, and I may want to swap that out. I'll see how that performs. We have a 3mm aluminum chassis. Speaking for underneath the chassis, as I mentioned, it's a little bit more of a different design that we're seeing here. So these are all composite on here. We have a composite side, another one down here below. All this butts up really nice together. It looks really good. And then we have the aluminum chassis down the center, and this is a skid plate you're seeing down here. And even though it seems a little warped, in the center, the chassis is straight, the chassis is flat, but just right here in the center, it just seems a little warped, but it's a skid plate. I'm not too concerned about that. If worst case, that's what's going to get some rubbing going on. There are no skid plates. There are no skid covers in the front and the rear, and I don't believe, no, I don't feel any kick up in there. Droop adjustments in the front and also in the rear of the car. I really like how that front splitter feels. It just butts up and it's all smooth, guys, right here. It just feels all smooth going together. Now I wanted to show you guys the LEDs. There's a turn signal. Nothing much from the front when throttle is on. You do have the turn signals, even on throttle. And then the rear, at least from what I saw on my settings, I didn't see any changes in the rear LED lights being on all the time. They're not. You do get this in the rear taillights, and I thought this was cool. Brake lights. Very cool. But I was trying to see if they stay on all the time, and they do not. And there's no turn signals at all in the rear, no matter which switch I switch it on. There's none, but you do get brake lights. Really cool. Like the brake light feature. Kind of give you guys an idea of the gyro. It's better when it's on the ground and moving, but hopefully you guys are able to see and hear that. And I got my gyro position turned about maybe 30%, so that's why it's not too much going on. And there's no throttle gyro, otherwise when I tilt it like this, there'd be some change. It's constant, so it's only steering. That's the only gyro you have in this. The stability only does steering. It does not do throttle or anything else. It just does the steering on this. I'll also bring out my Arrma Felony so you guys can compare, because I've seen some chats in the forums where people are saying, oh, this is an Arrma Felony clone, and it's not, guys. And I'd like to touch on that really quick, just to get on my little bit of a rant, because a lot of folks are starting to, really comment about what's clones and what's not clones, and it's getting to the part where folks are not really understanding what that means. So when they're sitting there and they're saying like the FS Racing or the FTX or the Reely are clone RCs, they're not. They're not clones of anything else, because these are all flat aluminum chassis. And if anyone who knows anything about RCs, this design's been around for quite a while. This started off as buggies, stretched. This started off as truggies. That's what this is all from. This is not from, someone taking a design of a Felony and saying, oh, that's a Felony, that's what they did. They took a Felony and they made it a clone of a Felony. It's not. To be quite honest, if you guys go back and you look at the infraction, the Felony, the Limitless, those aren't original designs. Not any one of them. The most recent one to that, which I thought was hilarious when those vehicles were released, look at the Losi 6. Look at that chassis. Look at the Arrma Felonies. The Losi 6 came out before the actual takeover from Horizon Hobby to Arrma. That's how long the Losi 6 was out. And I'm pretty sure there are ones prior to the Losi 6 that came out that look a lot like this. So if we're going to go say that they're clones of the Arrmas, really need to go back and do our history and really push ourselves to really understand what exactly is cloning and what exactly is copying or anything like that. Because if that's the case, these are all just stretched truggies and buggies. That's all they are, which everyone uses those designs. Everyone uses those models. There's no difference between any of them. So I've been seeing that comment or those words used a lot in forums and out there in the community as of late, as people are starting new coming into the hobby that have not been around for a while, to know that, these are not new designs at all. In some regards, these are designs that have been around for over 10, maybe even 20 years. So for this to be considered a clone, you're going to say pretty much every on-road car is a clone, no matter who the manufacturer is. So I figured I'd like to really just say that and put that out there so that you guys understand and really think about when you're making those comments, especially for content creators, because we're the ones who kind of fuel that argument. And if we keep using those kind of words, I don't think we're helping the hobby at all. I think we're hurting it. We're really hurting, you know, the nurturing of new people coming into the hobby and not willing to see all the options that are out there to utilize. But I'll go ahead and I'm going to bring the Arrma Felony out, let you guys see the differences between the two, mainly for size. That's what I like to do. I like to do this part of the video. I like to do it for size for anyone that's new to the, so you guys can see the differences between the two cars. I also removed the shells so you guys can see what they look like inside compared to each other. So you guys who are looking at the two cars can make a better decision if you want this or possibly the Arrma Felony. But let's go ahead and get the Felony out. Here we are, guys. And for you guys that been following me on the channel, you know I'm an on-road car junkie. I love my on-road cars. I love my rally cars. And this is something I love seeing, is seeing just the lineup of on-road cars. And here we are. We got the FSR Model GT. The Arrma Felony, this, So we got the two cars lined up. Chassis are the same size, guys. And as I said, standard 1/7 scale on-road car. That's kind of what you're going to get with this. You're going to get it this size. This is it. This is what it all is. For the shells, this is standing maybe a little bit higher on it. And, you know, it's for the tires and everything else, the tires are about the same size on both cars, and this one being that it has the wider in the rear, the more narrow in the front, you're going to be able to use the hoons that you're using on Felonies on this too as well. I actually like the compound on the Felonies more. These are belted that are on the Model GT, but they just feel softer versus the hoons. Typically, this video is being filmed during the winter, and typically I like to run my gold hoons on my Felony. So I don't know if I'm going to run these for the first time and then run the gold hoons on this afterwards, but I'll do both. I'll run these first and then I'll run the gold hoons on there going forward. Yeah, this size-wise, we're looking at the same. I'm not going to put these two bodies side by side. I'm not going to put these two bodies on top of each other. Doesn't make any sense. They're the same size cars. They're standard at 1/7 scales. I tried putting this body on the Model GT with the front skirt. It just doesn't match up well. Plus this body is a little bit shorter. And those who are familiar with the Felony, this is really the body. The rest of it is all attached to the lower bumper and everything else. So you're going to have to either, if you wanted to put the Model GT body onto the Felony, you're going to have to remove all of this to put this on. Vice versa, it doesn't quite work because you got all this going on with the Felony and it just would have a huge gap down below. I'm going to take the shells off, let you guys see what's going on underneath and get an idea of what's going on there. And this is the two cars with the bodies off. You guys can see what they look like underneath in regards to the ESC, motor, servo, center drive shaft. You guys can see the layouts with the shocks, the shock mounts, body mounts. If you look at the chassis design, the chassis in the FSR, it's a real narrow chassis with a lot of composite side guards that are kind of taking up that spacing. The problem that I see with the FSR is the same problem that was kind of with the first Limitless, is that motor placement doesn't give you much options for larger can motors. You're going to have to reroute where the motor is placed to get larger can motors in there. Maybe shift the motor mount around, similar to what people were doing in the Limitless, to get a larger can in there, because this design that's in there right now, you're not going to have many options when it comes down to larger can motors trying to put this into this car. I know in the Arrma Felony, there was no e-brake or mechanical brake associated with it. You had to get the Arrma Infraction V2 to have that option, or you can retrofit one in the car. but that was not something that came in the Arrma Felony stock. But just looking at them, they're just two well-built on-road machines. So looking at the Model GT, just out of the box, what are my initial concerns that I see for the car? One, as I mentioned before, I want to see how that 18 kilogram servo performs. I thought, as I said, I thought it was a little lazy, just, you know, moving the wheels on the carpet in my house, and just felt that that was a little lazy. We'll see how it performs in real world. The other thing is in regards to that motor mount, I just feel that the motor positioned in that way, if you're looking to do speed runs in it, and with this chassis, it looks like it's built perfectly for speed runs. Maybe not the body, but definitely that chassis is built for speed runs. I think that that motor mount doesn't give you the option to do that. So you're gonna have to do some modification in turning the motor, maybe placing it in a different way to get larger cans in there. The other thing I wish they would have done is that if you're looking to put other bodies on here, I wish they would have provided you with more body mounts, especially for the front. The rear, not so much, but the front, they don't really give you too many options. And with that taller shock tower in the front, I don't know how much lower you're going to be able to put in this car. So for those guys that like the really sleek looking bodies, I don't know if that's going to work on here or not, or if you're going to have to really do some modifications to get that on here or not. And then lastly, my only other problem with this is that, yes, I bought this overseas. So the other piece that you always tend to have with overseas cars is part support. On-road car, if you're looking to just do parking lot bashing with it, you're not going to really have an issue. If you start to do speed runs, big crashes, you know, start breaking arms and stuff like that, that's when it's going to start to be a concern, and you're going to have to wait for parts from getting overseas. So you may have to stockpile on parts just in case those things break. But for overseas, that's always the big risk, is that part support going on with them. Outside of that, those are my only concerns that I see with this prior to doing the first run, and I can't wait to get it out. Right here in the Northeast, it's been some really crappy weather. If it's not raining, it's snowing, it's just not ideal for a on-road car and getting it out for its first run, guys. I want some nice temperatures somewhere in the 40s at least, and no precip, no rain. So for right now, I'm gonna have to wait until that happens, and then you guys will see the first run of this car. But we're gonna leave it here. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok for our latest updates to the channel. This is Ready Set RC, signing out. Thanks again, guys.